Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. It's always a fun ride. You can find us syndicated on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com and all social media sites. Any way we can be out there and be of service to you to get that information out there to you. That's what we live for. Continue sending emails. Donna at donnasedge.com. Donna at donnasedge.com. So I've received a lot of emails from you guys concerned about certain things that are happening in the country right now. So it's very fitting that we have Linda Hansen with us. But I want you to talk just for a moment about prosperity101.com. What's that all about to the new viewers out there?
Well, thank you. I mean, it's great to be back here with you, and I love your new backdrop. It's beautiful, and love to hear about your new environment there. It's wonderful. But thank you for inviting me back, and I'd love to get to know your listeners. Prosperity 101 is really designed to help unleash the power of employers and employees to reclaim and preserve America. I truly believe that employers are a key to not only reclaiming the vibrancy of America, but to making sure we preserve it for the future. There are millions of employees who go to voting booths every election and really vote to put themselves out of a job because they don't understand how policy affects paychecks. They don't understand how our basic freedoms need to be protected. And a lot of times they don't even know what their basic freedoms are. So Prosperity 101 is a basic civics understanding, but also a very basic economic understanding. And it really helps to create a great relationship between employer and employee. So I have an online course, I have books, I have, I come and do in-person presentations or speaking engagements. And I just want to really empower employers to help create that grassroots movement of employees who understand how to be their own advocate.
It definitely feels like it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody on the same working level, I think, works out. Because as a former employer with a lot of employees, I totally get that.
Yes.
And I'm just telling you guys, you need to really get that. If you own a business or if you're an employee and you would love to see this into your workforce, I think it would be a great match.
Well, I've had employers, thank you, Donna. I've had employers tell me it helps their employees think like an owner. I've had employers tell me that through, I forgot to mention, I have a podcast as well. And through the podcast, they've actually learned a lot about different issues. And really in every episode, I ask the guests or I share tips on how an employer could share about that issue with their employees. This is nonpartisan, but it is definitely pro-freedom. It is definitely helping people understand, at the very least, the Bill of Rights, and helping them think through who they vote for. Like, is the person they're voting for protecting their rights? This was really started, my background, I, as you know, longtime homeschool mom to a big brood, really thankful for that, but also really called into politics and policy as life went on. And I was very, very involved in the 2010 flip of the state of Wisconsin, and a lot of things behind the scenes and all around. And as I was working with business owners across the state, so many were telling me that they would leave the state if a business-friendly governor wasn't elected. And, that was really the beginning of Prosperity 101, because then one of the times I was talking to, 500 top managers at a major retailer, and I felt like God actually called me to just write the book. He said, they get it, but the people who stock the shelves don't. And you need to write a book and develop a program for employers to educate employees. So it's really been a calling and a passion, in addition to the other work I do politically with regulatory reform, issue advocacy, and things. And then as just a leadership and executive coach as well, being able to help coach people through being able to implement these ideas in the workplace and helping to empower their employees is really important to me. I mean, my goal in life, people ask, who am I? I say, well, it would be to know Christ and make him known and to promote freedom and liberty throughout the land. With that, we need to keep our priorities right: God, family, country. And Prosperity 101 kind of fits into all of that. So I'd love to hear from your listeners. I'd like to invite them, go to prosperity101.com, but also, listen to the podcast. I just started releasing video podcasts, which people have been asking for a long time. I'm glad to finally do that. But I've just some of the best guests ever, and it's just a joy to share all that with your audience as well. You're a great audience and you're a great show. So thank you, Donna.
They're great. Absolutely. You're great too. But I wanted to ask you this about Herman Cain. Okay, because you work really close with him.
Yes.
Is one take you had just about him as a human being, about freedom for Americans? What would be the number one take you would have just by knowing Herman Cain?
Well, and for your listeners who don't know my background, I was Deputy Chief of Staff for Herman Cain's presidential campaign in 2012. I was one of two people. His Chief of Staff, Mark, and I were the two people who really convinced him to run for president, and so was there from the very, very beginning. And I was blessed to work with him for 12 years up until his death, which actually is 5 years ago this week that we're talking. So America, one word about Herman Cain. I can't think of one word exactly, but I would say he would say America needs revival. So I guess that is one word. Revival. He would definitely say that. But I can hear his voice so many times. He would talk about how the left would always use sin tactics, shift the subject, ignore the facts, and name call. And if you look at every single time someone is attacked, a conservative or someone is attacked, that's exactly what happens in the media. Shift the subject, ignore all the facts, and then if that doesn't work, then you go into name calling or the ad hominem attacks, right? And, it's just, he had so much wisdom. So I really invite people, don't forget about Herman Cain. He was like Trump before Trump. We were MAGA before MAGA was cool, really. And I'm really thankful that we were able to set the table for the current environment, because it really did help people to understand the importance and need to have someone with a really great business background and mindset in the White House leading the country. That was something that Herman Cain would have brought to America, and it's sad that his voice is gone. I'm sure he'd be highly involved still to this day, which we miss him. But it really did help awaken and create a movement of people across the nation who yearned for someone with common sense, regular American values, like loved America. Really told it like it is, understood the American people, and wasn't afraid to call a spade a spade. And that was Herman Cain, and that is definitely Donald Trump. And so, I feel like that was a great opportunity to bring that type of leadership to the American people, which to this day, when people find out I worked with Herman Cain, I hear again and again, oh, I loved that man. Oh, I miss him. I miss his smile. I miss his humor. I miss his wisdom. I miss him. And, and I can tell you it was just a wonderful opportunity to work with him and learn from him, because there's wisdom that comes from business, from life. And he had a lot, and he loved America. He loved God, he loved his family, and he loved America.
I'll tell you, when I think of Herman Cain, I think about how he could call somebody out that didn't realize they were being called out.
I know.
He had that mastered. It was I would hear him. He would literally be, somebody would be going the wrong way, going the wrong way with the country. And in his gentle, nice way, he was making the point.
Yeah.
I would call my husband and I would say, he just insulted the guy. The guy doesn't know he's been insulted.
He had a different way about him. Trump calls a spade one way. John Kennedy has his way of talking about things. But Herman Cain had a thing. But I still remember, he wrote a book, They Think We're Stupid, or or something like that. But he would always say, "Stupid people are running this country," you know. But when I first, he was one of my first advisors for Prosperity 101, and I went to meet with him to talk through the concept of what I wanted to do and how I wanted it to help business. And he was great. He said, "This is fantastic." He read everything I brought. He's read every word I've ever written. Well, not since he passed, but before that. And I got his insight, his wisdom and advice. But I remember him telling me, "Hansen," which was my term of endearment, "Hansen, I talk to these people across the country all the time. They don't need Prosperity 101. I said, "What do they need, sir?" "Prosperity 1." We need Prosperity 1. and he just always would tell me, simplify, simplify, simplify. So I think that's part of actually Trump's popularity, is he just tells it like it is. You feel like you're not talking to some political wonk. You're talking to the guy down the street who's making it simple for you to understand what is going on. And this is the beauty of what's happening in America right now. And I'm thankful to have been part of that with her, having that kind of begin in a way in that era. And, people really began to wake up. But, this is about we the people, too. This is about we the people saying, we want to have more say in our government. We're sick of the politicians messing things up because stupid people were running the country, right? Like Herman Cain used to say. And so, but American citizens need to be the ones running the country.
Let me ask you a question, because when the enemy, and I call communists the enemy, okay, so when the enemy is setting the stage and they would love to see the fall of America, how do you think, because I'm seeing we're doing better, and I know you are too, so I would like to know what you think of what's happening with the tariffs. What is the final, I'm not talking about what crazy people are saying, I'm saying literally, what is really happening as far as you're concerned, as far as prosperity in America.
I am blown away I knew the tariffs would help America. It's common sense, right? As we reset that international trade landscape, it has turned around and really helped bring billions of dollars back to America. It's been amazing. We recently had the first budget surplus that we've had in like decades and decades, right? I think, did we have forgive me if I'm misspeaking, we may have had one in Trump's first term at one point in time. I wanted to check that before here, but anyway, we had the first budget surplus. Now that doesn't mean, so for people who are listening and thinking, oh, how did we get out of debt? No. Like at my house, if I think a surplus, I think debt-free is what but that's not the case. We still have a lot of debt that we need to deal with in the U.S. We still need to take care of that. However, the budget surplus has been amazing between what's been happening with the DOGE cuts. I don't know, people, if you're not following the Department of Government Efficiency and DOGE, and follow them on X or whatever social media, and follow their contract updates. It's amazing to me how many contracts they're rooting out that the U.S. government, that we taxpayers have been paying for, that has just been waste. So, we're not only getting rid of waste, but, we're uprooting the fraud and the abuse of our systems and the taxpayers' money. I think, you hear the media saying, oh, we're cutting this, we're cutting that. We have to remember that everything the government has, every dollar the government spends ends up being money that is earned from a tax-paying citizen. So if we don't want all our money going to these crazy things or to illegals who are abusing the system and getting all sorts of services and health care and everything that we citizens, tax-paying citizens, can't have, then we need to think through this economically. But the tariffs alone are helping so much because it's really encouraging companies to reshore their manufacturing. We're not only reshoring manufacturing, but we're opening up trade to other countries. Like great news for America's farmers and ranchers just recently, where they opened up trade into other countries. I think it was Australia for American beef and things. Like, this is amazing. These are things that we need to do. The other thing, you start putting these tariffs on these countries, and there's nothing like a little economic pressure to get behavioral change, right? I mean, you take away a kid's allowance, right? or I mean, I never gave my kids allowance, but I paid them for chores, right? And but you start putting economic pressure, and you can start to bring change. All the naysayers must be, just wondering, maybe they hadn't thought it through. Like, even right before we were recording, we were talking about Bill Maher just came out and said he was wrong about Trump's tariffs and economic policies, which I thought,
I'm coming to see you.
Billboard, so. But Ken, speaking of that, you're talking about tariffs and economic policy. Ken Langone, who was one of the founders of Home Depot, along with Bernie Marcus, Ken Langone actually came out in favor of Trump and said he was an anti-Trump person. He did not like Trump. Right. But he recently came out, did all sorts of interviews saying he is now fully supportive of Donald Trump. He thinks he's going to be one of the greatest presidents of all of history, and what he's done economically is amazing. So, you ask, are the tariffs working? Yes. And I think as we begin to see this economic resurgence in America, we're going to see a lot change in our culture and everything that will be better for families, better for communities, just better for our nation overall. And a strong America really allows us to actually then help other countries in a proper way, not an improper way.
Well, I don't understand the reasoning of some folks. Okay, so I really believe there are certain things you need to do in your life before, you need to own your own business for a while. It's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah, own your own business or work in food service, or both.
Or retail.
Yeah.
I mean, do those things. I promise you'll have a whole new perspective of everything, every single thing. For instance, okay, so let's just say I hire a sales representative and for my company, and I pay them a per diem, okay, and I allow them to have a particular amount of money for expenses. Right. I'm going to look at those expenses. Okay, so let's just say I hire a manager, a property manager for an apartment complex. Okay, if I say the property manager has paid $200 for a hammer, I'm going to question that.
Wait.
I mean, why did you pay $200 for a hammer? Yeah. I'm going to figure that he's skimped a little bit off of that hammer. Okay, so he's making something off of it. Or let's say it's been done in the past, $200 for a toilet seat. That's been done before within the country. Question that. So why aren't more people questioning the taxes they are paying and how that money is being wasted and spent on stupid stuff?
Well, here's the thing. One, that's a really big question. Why aren't more people questioning? One, we've not been taught. I would say in the last few generations, look at our public school systems. People have not been taught to actually question government. They've not been taught to understand our founding documents. I was just even reading about how the lack of cursive, not only changes and hurts the brain development. Like, the cursive is good for brain development, mind-body coordination, brain development, all of that. So cursive is good for that. But our founding documents are written in cursive. If people cannot read cursive, they cannot read. Exactly. We trust what somebody did. You want to be able to see truth. You want to get to the core of truth. So something simple like that is a step of the dumbing down of America. We've had the dumbing down of America for the last like 5 decades plus. And it has been purposeful, intentional, and very well coordinated at every level of education as well as in government and media. So we have all that, and people, you go about your day. People are busy, like they're raising families. I just think of even my own kids and grandkids. I mean, they're running, one just had a recent broken arm, so you've got multiple appointments for that. You've got, band practice, you've got swim practice, football practice, you've got a summer job for some of them. You've got to plan for the school year, whether you're homeschooling or in school, and then, not to mention the job of the parents and, paying the bills at home. So I think a lot of times people just get overwhelmed. They don't think about it. And the sly thing about taxes and also government legislation, taxation, all of that, it comes in these ridiculously big bills. I don't even like to call it the big, beautiful bill, although, yes, it had really great, big, beautiful things in it. But I still say, could we just go to one page or one subject bills? I'd be happy with, 5 pages. Let's go with 5 pages. Congress can do hard things. They can read 5 pages to vote on it. And, have there be a time where citizens can review these things and then give their input. But nobody has time to read the tax code. Nobody has time to read all these, nobody has time for that. So you ask, why aren't people in more of an uproar? This is why. Now, what Doge did when they came in, and it was fantastic because they brought to light a lot of the waste. Now, you look and you think, okay, funding for USAID was cut. Oh, interestingly enough, a lot of these left-wing shows on liberal media are, just not on anymore, or their multi-million-dollar paid hosts are being fired or things. It's like, interesting. Let's follow that money. All of these different things, and then you start getting the whistleblowers coming forth because now it's safer to talk about these things. I really think we're at a point in America where, it's either going to make it or break it, right? Citizens have to step up. So you talk about why aren't citizens complaining? They were brainwashed into not complaining. They were taught to be compliant. They were taught not to question. It's, they're made to be too busy to have time to dig into it. It can be very time consuming at times to protect your own interests when it comes to fighting against government, whether it's the local, state, or national level. So it can be time consuming to go to a school board meeting. It can be time consuming to make phone calls or write a letter or, go meet with a legislator when they do their town halls. But, our freedom depends on it. Our freedom depends on it, and the freedom for millions of people in upcoming generations depends on us being involved. And if the public schools weren't going to educate us, which they didn't, right? That's why I'm so dedicated to what I do, is saying, employers, it's your opportunity. We have all of these people in the workforce. They're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, some 50s, that have never thought about these issues and how policy affects their paychecks. And if employers don't tell them, who will? Who will? Because not everybody, you see these protests right now, a lot of these like anti-Doge protests and things. People are over 60. It's crazy, but they're not seeing what we're seeing. They're not seeing what's happening with Doge because the media isn't allowing them to see it. They're not seeing the really good things happening with the tariffs. The whole story isn't being told. So we have to be our own researchers, and we have to be our own advocates. And employers, I really hope that you will, contact me, join with me. I want to empower you to help employees understand why all this is important. If you don't do it, if employers don't do this, who will? Because the school systems, the public school systems and the university systems have failed us. These people are in the workforce, they're raising families, they're voting, and they don't know. And so it's up to us to tell them.
Well, I took my son out of the regular school system back in the 90s because he comes in from school and says that he has to have a calculator for math. Well, back in my olden days, it was considered cheating, and actually my math teacher, Dr. Runyon, said if I catch anybody with a calculator, he'll be expelled.
Right.
I mean, that was it for me. So Brad comes into school and he said, Mom, I don't have a calculator for math. And I'm going, no, you don't.
Right.
He goes, yes, I do too. And I said, I'm going to call your teacher. So I'm thinking, then he'll say, no, I'm just joking or whatever. Well, he just stood there and watched me call the teacher. And I said, Brad tells me he has to have a calculator for math. And she said, because I'm trying to give her a way out. And she says, yes. She said, it's required. He has to have a calculator. And I said, that's cheating. Well, that's one thing.
Yeah, and little did we know where we would be with people needing computer skills and all of that, which is, I know, something we wanted to talk about. But, I mentioned to you before we were recording, I recently rewatched the movie Hidden Figures. And for your viewers, if they've never seen the movie Hidden Figures, I highly recommend it. It is just a wonderful movie that has to do with just human nature, our American history, discrimination, overcoming discrimination. And, it's just a very great movie about these wonderful women who were behind the scenes in the space program, the NASA program. And they were amazing. They called them computers, because they were just so amazing in terms of their gifting and ability. And but one of them in particular helped. She had the skills to help NASA adapt when computers came in. So it's not so much anymore that you never want to use a computer or a calculator or anything, but we must have, I would say, the spiritual wisdom and discernment to know how to use a tool, not to be used by a tool.
I think so too, because what if something happens to the grid?
Then
you don't even need math skills for gardening.
Yes.
You really do. You've got to have that. You've got to be able to know 1 plus 1 without using a calculator. What is 1 plus 1? You really need that. So then the Common Core math comes in to confuse kids even further. In your opinion, has this been done by design?
Oh, it's definitely by design. I've watched it. I've been speaking about this design decline of America for 40 plus years. So, excuse me, it's definitely by design, and it's up to us to change it. So, employers, please join with me. Speak to your employees, and parents, talk to your children. This is so important. Getting the truth out. Now, the other thing, you mentioned employers, or you mentioned computers, and right now we've got the whole AI thing coming up, and you told me that next time you'd like to dive into that a little bit more with me on the next time I'm on the show, which is great. But right now we need to be thinking about this. We definitely need to be looking at what AI is doing. AI can be great. People have used ChatGPT or different things. It can be great. But we need to make sure we're not allowing ourselves to be put in a digital gulag, okay? Whether it's with AI or, our social credit scores, whatever. All of this is just really dangerous. We don't know where this is going. AI can be great. We want to use it to our advantage, but let's think through what the long-term effects are and what we would need to be careful of, because this is a new frontier. And anytime you have something like that is so powerful and so constantly changing that you can't keep up with it, it is, and when it's being so sold to us as the greatest thing, we need to be concerned. When we think about the decline of America, many things that were sold to us through the is fear and convenience. Many things through fear. We'll come take care of you, and this is for the greater good. and things, but also convenience. This makes it so much more convenient. This makes it so much better. This is for your health. This is wonderful. Well, who wouldn't want positive things like that? But, and so we look at, say, the Neuralink in someone's brain that helps them walk or to see or something, and we think that's great. A Neuralink in everybody's brain, so that, and I'm not, there's other links. I mean, as we go further, they want this type of thing in people, right? The elites, the globalists, they want this type of thing in people so that we can be monitored, we can control things. So we have to be very, very careful, because that technology is there. People might think I'm crazy, but it's actually there, and people are talking about it. I was just, whether it was at the World Health Organization or some globalist summit, I can't remember, don't quote me on it, but I remember the lady talking about how they have learned how to implant memories, like rewrite memories in people's brains. And, this is horrible. This is brainwashing. And we've already seen a lot of brainwashing just through the media.
Oh, yeah. Just
through the media. And what is constantly pushed between censorship of truth, which has happened a lot, especially during the last administration, but then the brainwashing, the constant messaging of things that are not true. These are things we all need to be very, very careful of, so we can bring our economy back with tariffs and reshoring and great manufacturing and a better tax policy and all of that, and that's great. But if we as citizens give over our sovereignty to AI, that's not great, and that's a whole nother problem that we need to address.
Absolutely. Let's go into a commercial break. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes. So everybody hang in there, okay? We'll be back.
Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. Thank you so much for being with us every day, Monday through Friday. By the way, we have a website. Go to donnasedge.com. That's donnasedge.com. You can find some of the past shows. We've been doing this for over 20 years now, and really excited about that. So what makes the show so popular? I've been asked about that. Why do you have so many viewers? It's because I'm not the star of the show. The guests are the star of the show. I've got the world's easiest forum. I can do this if I sleep. I have great guests on the show who know what they're talking about. One of them is right here with us right now. Her name is Linda Hansen, prosperity101.com. And so we're talking about those, and I really do. I admire everything you've done, but another thing I admire is your research. And you really believe in that. We can't just be force-fed, and we've been force-fed for generations, basically. And it's all about thinking with our own brain. And I think we can do that. I really do. I'm no genius, but I know how to research. And if something just doesn't sound right to me, and I'll have to tell you, when I start perking, my head starts perking up, is when I hear someone in politics say, it's for the children. I'm sorry, but whatever it is, I've got to research it. I've got to, whoa. Because it sounds like you, and your key word earlier in the show was what we've been sold on. I don't like being sold anything.
Right.
And we've got to get out of that mode of not everything is inconvenient as they say is inconvenient. Sometimes it's more inconvenient to go with the herd. We've got to think.
Right. We have to think. And we often trade convenience or security for our liberty, and we shouldn't do it. We have seen this happen many, many times, and we should not do it. And we were talking about AI before the break. This is something we have to be so incredibly careful about as we move forward into the AI frontier, because the opportunity for good is enormous. The opportunity for bad, I believe, is exponentially enormous. And so we have to be wise enough to somehow keep it in its box. And I'm not sure we've captured that yet. I just don't know that we have. I think it's definitely something people need to be a little more careful about. Just think about it. People have jumped on the whole smart appliances, smart computers, Ring doorbells. Nothing against Ring. I'm not trying to, go against any brand or anything. But this type of thing, which can bring really wonderful things. Think of all the truth. Speaking of Ring doorbells, think of all the times a Ring doorbell video has helped to solve a crime or protected someone. So there's really good things about this. But those smart appliances, those things also monitor everything that we do. And we give up our freedom, our privacy, our liberty, and things for convenience, and I'm not sure that is a valuable trade.
Well, and then another thing I often think about, and I wanted to mention this, find a prepper in your area. They can help you see the light. They really can. So there's one who's on the show, and he's written several books, by the way. He's on once a month, and he's also one of my favorite people. Not only Linda, but this guy right here too. And his name is Ron Foster, and he has written a book here about the longest walk. And this is, you'll see the picture, this is Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta looks like this all the time, because I know we've passed through it several times going back to Alabama from South Carolina. But this is a must-read also. It's called The Longest Walk, and what Ron talks about on his job is what if something happened to the grid?
Exactly.
We need to know these things. And we have to be aware, and you're going to find this is hilarious. Okay, so So back in the 80s, I worked for Contel Cellular, okay, which later became Verizon, and so I was involved in 3 buyouts with this company, working in the corporate world. So we were sent to Nashville, Tennessee, which is where the headquarters was, and we were sent there. And so we had these little cubicles, and they were training us. And I felt like a lot of times they were brainwashing us for trying to, And so it was me, and then we had a partner. So they had this guy was sitting by me. He was a lot younger than I was. I think we need to do research spiritually as well. And the reason I'm saying that. Absolutely. Now, this is when we had the little flip phones, and this is when we had the big, we called it the brick phone. You remember the okay. Yeah, good apps then.
Before we had mobile phones.
They were heavy. I mean, those things were heavy. So, but this is when we were in the analog world, okay? Then we go digital. So they were talking about what's going to be in the future. We're going to have one little chip like this that's going, and we're living it now, okay, which is going to be inside your phone, and we're in that world right now. I looked over to the partner, the young guy that I had sitting by me, and I said, wow, that kind of sounds like the mark of the beast in biblical. He was afraid of me. He started going, moving over me. He thought it was a wacko. But it felt that way to me.
We will not be able to buy or sell. It's already happening in China with their social credit scores. If they don't hold the line with certain things, they can't get on public transportation. They can't buy or sell. These things are already happening. And we saw many people have their freedoms taken away from them during COVID era and things, and the whole vaccine passport and stuff. That was really not so much for COVID. And I'll be as bold to say that. I said it then, I'll say it now, but it's proving to be very, very true. It was all about tracking. It's all about tracking. So do not let them have all your information. And along with that, I want to warn people about Clear ID. I will not go get Clear ID at the airport. I will not do it. You want to read the fine print of everything they pull on you. I'm one of those nerdy people that tries to read the privacy notices and stuff. And I use so many different apps and things, but there's so many that just pull everything. They'll pull your pictures, they'll pull your text messages, they'll pull this. It's insane. And we can try to keep a level of privacy and freedom, but where we need to be on point as citizens too is understanding how to keep that in a manageable box. These technologies can be absolutely great in so many ways. How do we keep it in a manageable box so that we can protect our freedom? We use them for good and not for evil. It's just like everything. It can be a tool for good, or it can be a tool for evil. And so we need to be thinking about that. I did want to get back to you mentioned about the grid. Our grid is under attack all the time. I think that's one of the most memorable things. Back when Herman Cain was number 1 for 6 weeks in the primary and everything, and things were really looking like he could potentially become a nominee for president. We were in a lot of different briefings and a lot of meetings with people. I learned so much about the threats to our electric grid back then. That was back then. Okay. Then in the interim too, over the years, I've consulted frequently with an organization called E-Generation Foundation, and their goal is promoting new nuclear development, especially molten salt reactors and new small modular reactors, which is I call these reactors guardians of the grid. If we would just open the path for these small modular reactors, especially molten salt reactors, my favorite, but we would have guardians in the grid, and if we would be manufacturing and bringing jobs to millions of people because of doing this in energy. Now, going back to policy, helping people understand how policy affects paychecks, we can't have freedom unless we have a strong energy structure. We need to be not only energy independent, but to be really strong, we need to be energy dominant. And we cannot do that with sun and wind. We cannot do that with throwing our money away into these subsidies for these technologies, sun and wind, that really only provide 3% of our grid. And we need to be able to have stability to our grid. So I say the guardians of the grid, these new reactors, and President Trump thankfully has done an executive order opening up nuclear technologies for a quicker pathway to production. It was the regulatory system was very constricting to new nuclear development, but it's clean, reliable, affordable, safe. It's amazing. So we have that, but then we have oil and gas. We have amazing resources here in the U.S., and we do it cleaner and more efficiently than any nation in the world. And we have that, so we can have a stable grid if we protect the grid, if we guard the grid. And we have to be able also to protect the grid, because China and other nefarious enemies are definitely always trying to attack our grid. And in fact,
wait a minute, I got to ask you a question. So you mean they probably won't put our interests first?
I know, shocker, right? Yeah, anyway. But I know I was reading something, talking about research. This is a rabbit hole people can go down if they want. But, you see everywhere the solar farms, right? You see solar farms, which is, again, I have nothing against solar energy. I think
right down the road from us, 8 miles from here.
Yeah, and I think that it can be great. I would rather see a solar farm put on top of a parking lot instead of using valuable farmland with that. That's a whole nother environmental concern, okay? But apart from that, the environmental thing we could discuss on another whole episode. But these solar panels, most all are made in China, or components of them are made in China. And I have learned that in a lot of them, they have like a switch that they can turn on and off from China, right? So our enemy, basically, yes, we need to trade with them. Yes, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right? Right? Right. Yeah. But why are we allowing them to have any access to anything in our grid? And speaking of that, holding up the topic, yeah, well, our phones, but also in the previous administration, the Department of Defense allowed China to be overseeing much of certain programs, through Microsoft programs, and yeah, it was just, why were we allowing China to be the administrator of certain programs like this? So thankfully in this administration, it recently was brought to light, and Secretary of Defense Hegseth stopped it, and we're getting that turned around. But these are all things. So energy security is national security. We have to protect the grid so we can have national security. We cannot produce. We cannot, have fresh water, sanitation, all these things. We can't do this unless we have energy. And to do this for, a nation like ours, and to be able to be safe, secure, and reliable in terms of how we produce our energy is incredibly important. I love what I'm seeing come out of the administration now, with not only protecting the grid, but bringing new technologies to the forefront. So there again, we're talking about all these different technologies and things. There's great things that happen when we learn and we grow and we adopt new things, but we also have to be very wary of the negative side of some technologies, like AI we were talking about. But to protect the grid is paramount to making sure that we can have a secure nation.
Oh yeah, it is. So I want to bring another point. Okay, this is just Donna Thuzel coming horse sense. Okay, so you own a business. Let me ask you this. So let's just say you work for another company. You're in sales. Okay, would you actually let your competitor do your books?
It's like the dumbest thing ever.
And you're buying components from other countries who hate us.
Yeah.
You're buying those components and we're using the cell phones.
Right.
I mean, does that make any kind of sense whatsoever?
No, it doesn't make any sense unless your whole plan was the demise of a nation, which was the plan. Now, not only that, we have our food supply. We're looking at the Chinese owning how much land here in the U.S., not only farmland, but I tell everyone, please, if you are selling property, if you are selling a home or a business or a land, please, 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 double, triple, quadruple research down the layers of who you are selling that land to, who you are selling that property to, because it could be the most American sounding company or the most American sounding individual. But then you find out that the money behind that purchase is actually from China. Now, China owns, I think between Bill Gates and China, they own more farmland than America, right? But not only that, they've now purchased like Smithfield Foods and a lot of other food production companies. So, we are looking at our country basically being owned by another country. So this is not okay at all. So when we talk about the tariffs, going back to what we were talking about before, this all connects because you start to put economic pressure on these countries who are not our friends. They are not our friends. And we start to put the economic pressure and say, no, American land is for Americans. American land is for American citizens. American farmland is for American farmers and ranchers. This is what we need to do. We not to make America great again. We need to put America and Americans first. We can't do it if we're kowtowing down to other nations or letting things slip in through the back door, or if individuals or business owners decide they'd rather take the big paycheck than not sell, or to take a lower price from someone who is actually an American citizen and dedicated to the values that made America great. We have sold out our nation because we haven't been educated on all this. So really, everybody who's listening, who's talking, please do not sell your business, your land, anything without double and triple checking. And if you don't know, there are ways to find out. So you could contact, I would say, I don't know where everybody lives, I don't know, but I'll just say, okay, in Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Governor Sanders, was like the first nation to say Chinese could no longer own land in Arkansas. Okay, the Chinese government. It's not like a Chinese immigrant could, a legal Chinese immigrant, right? Okay, we have nothing against Chinese people. I want to be clear about that. And legal immigrants from any nation are welcome. And legal immigrants come through the front door, come through legally, right? Legal immigrants. But however, having the CCP owning farmland or businesses is not okay. So, I would say if you're in Arkansas, start there. Start with some of these conservative organizations that are really starting to follow this. I know I've had Frank Gaffney on my show. You can look at like Center for Security Policy. You can look for AFPI, different organizations. You can really start to drill down and see. So it does take a little bit of research. Okay, so citizens, listeners, viewers, I would say, yeah, you know what? To protecting our freedom takes a little bit. It takes a little bit of work. And it means sometimes it's inconvenient. It means that, sometimes we have to do the hard things. Like Congress, I believe in you, Congress. You can do 1-page bills. You can do 5-page bills. I think the American public would say we can handle looking at 10-page bills. Come on, Congress, you can too, right? But in America, we can do hard things, and Americans can handle truth. We just need to know what the truth is. So if we know that the CCP is buying up our land, our businesses, our homes, so that we can't, remember Klaus Schwab saying, oh, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, they're buying up our homes, so we can't have them. So we need to be able to have the backbone and the conviction enough as American citizens to say, I can do the hard thing. I can take a lower price. I can take a lower price, or I can wait to sell until I know for sure that I am not selling to the CCP, right? These are the things that we
hurry. Sometimes it's such a hurry to do something. Okay, so we sold a farm, 38 acres of farm in Alabama. Well, we talked to numerous people, but one really stuck out in my something just wasn't right. So he actually didn't come to a realtor or anything. There was something he was foreign, and that's not why. It's what he asked. He wanted to know if he would be able to put tiny houses on the land. Well, I could have said, well, I'm not going to be living here. I don't give a rip what happens. I'm moving to another state anyway. But something didn't sound right about that. And then you're seeing television commercials all over. We buy houses. You see those commercials all the time. We buy houses. And there'll be some guy that looks like he's probably the mental aptitude I am. And you're wondering, how does he have the money, the cash to pay your houses? I don't think it's the guy on the TV screen who's doing it. I think he's being funded by someone bigger, such as a Bill Gates type person.
Yeah. Well, these are things that, it takes, like I said, we need to do hard things. We need to do our research. We need to look through. It's all of it plays into it. So, right now too, there's so many spider webs in terms of protecting our energy grid, protecting our economic security, protecting the family, all of these things, right? But, you talk about technology and things. I really encourage your viewers to watch what's happening in Taiwan. Taiwan is the biggest, producer. Like, we rely on all of our chips, the little chips that go in our phones. We rely on that. We rely on them to do this interview, right? So why are we not making all our computer chips in the United States? We can and we should, but we sold out. We sold out for cheaper.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Less than a minute left in this segment. Okay, so this is a question that I have for you. Okay, we hear of sleeper cells. We think of a sleeper cell as being a human being. Is that necessarily the truth? Could the sleeper cell just be in my cell phone?
Absolutely. It could definitely be in your cell phone, or like I mentioned before, in the solar energy farm, where all they have to do is flip a switch. It can be in our food supply, because if we're not producing our food, even if it's grown and produced here in the U.S., if people who care about producing quality food are not the ones doing it, that can be a problem. It can be, I know you want to talk about the weather at some point. It can be in those stripes we see in the sky that are not the clouds that we learned about when we were young. So maybe we can do that on the next segment. But, there's all different ways to destroy a nation and to destroy the people of the nation. There's all different ways to depopulate a nation. There's a lot that has been happening to America, but thankfully people are waking up, and we need to be the citizens that can do hard things.
Linda, we're going to have to go back and talk to you. We need 2 hours. There's not enough. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you catch her, prosperity101.com. You really do. If you care about your company, you care about your business, that's what you're going to do. You're getting in contact with Linda. Linda, thank you again so much for being with us. Hope you guys have a super duper